Fear, worry, and shame causes avoidance in our lives. It causes us to avoid what needs to be confronted, and as a result, those things serve as barriers to our success. Avoidance causes undue hardship in our lives. According to your study notes taken from Overcome Procrastination God's Way, beginning at page 39, it reads, first things first, avoidance causes things to get worse. For example, in Proverb 20 verse 4, the sluggard man's situation got worse because he avoided taking care of some important business. It says, the sluggard will not plow by reason of the cold. Therefore shall he beg and harvest and have nothing. In other words, he had to endure far more hardship and difficulty than was necessary. Had he gotten up, put on his boots and gloves and plowed his field, even in the midst of cold and harsh weather, he would have experienced a harvest in its due season. However, because he avoided taking action when he was supposed to, he had to beg when it came time for harvest and ultimately ended up with nothing. At first, taking care of business was a necessary evil. Then, after he avoided taking care of business, he ended up enduring an evil that wasn't necessary. The same thing happens to us. One thing leads to another. When we avoid confronting what needs to be confronted, our situations almost always get worse. We end up having to pay or do more than necessary. We almost always end up completely stressed out, and the overall quality of life diminishes. In Proverbs 24 verses 30 and 31 from the NIV, King Solomon said, I went past the field of the sluggard, past the vineyard of the man who lacks judgment. Thorns had come up everywhere. The ground was covered with weeds, and the stone wall was in ruins. He also said in Ecclesiastes 10 verse 18, by much slothfulness the building decayeth, and through idleness of the hands the house droppeth through. Does any of this seem familiar? Have you ever needed to confront something or someone that was not pleasant, but because you didn't confront it, things got worse? Well, if we take the same course of action that the sluggard man took, then we will end up living a life in slack and lack in some area of our lives. Therefore, the question becomes, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to continue to avoid what needs to be confronted? Or are we going to confront what we have been avoided? The former will yield unnecessary consequences, but the latter will yield rewards. The choice is left up to us. The best choice is to take action by confronting whatever stands before us or in us. Fear, worry, and shame can be confronted and overcome. But in order to confront, we must be willing to come face to face with whatever we are dealing with an unquenchable determination to overcome it. The good news is, we do not have to confront those things alone. God is with us. Avoidance causes undue hardship in our lives. In order to remove the barriers to our success, we must begin to confront what we've been avoiding. There are a couple of practical steps that you can take in order to begin the process. The first step is to acknowledge what has been avoided. You can use the confrontation table that has been included as part of your study notes for this unit. Download it and begin to fill it out. It just begins with the first column. What is it that you have been avoiding? Step 1. Make a list of the unpleasant or difficult things, situations, or people that you have been avoiding. Step 2. Ask yourself the question, why am I avoiding taking action on these things? Is it because of fear, worry, or shame? Or is it something else? For the next unit, we will go deeper into confrontation. But your assignment in order to complete this unit, in order to go on to the next unit, is to write down a list of the things that you've been avoiding using the confrontation table. And then write down next to it, what is it that's causing you to avoid confronting what needs to be confronted in your life? At the end, when you've completed that step, just simply at the end of the unit say, click the button that says, I have completed this unit.